I'm standing naked before you. Don't you want more than my sex? I can scream as loud as your last one, but I can't claim innocence. Oh, God, could it be the weather? Oh, God, why am I here if love isn't forever and it's not the weather? Hand me my leather.
F.B. Francis Bacon, born 1909, died 1992, painter. Numbered amongst the most accomplished British painters of the 20th century, Francis Bacon's artwork is unique, famous for its austere, homoerotic, and nightmarish imagery, as if David Lynch had eaten loads of Thormidor for dinner, taken an LSD tablet, then thrown up on the canvas. A celebrated bohemian and boozer, Bacon once fell down the stairs of a pub and knocked his right eye half out of its socket and merely pushed it back in. Bacon was a magnetic fellow. His mere presence could either bring happiness to an occasion or plunge into a hellish darkness. Part of the fun of being here in his company was in not quite knowing where the evening was going to take you. It was a rollercoaster ride with Francis, the wheels lubricated by endless glasses of champagne. I am essentially optimistic, he used to say. Always grateful when I wake up each morning and discover I'm still alive. He was born in Dublin to English parents, his father a veteran of the Boer War, a somewhat fierce individual who, not surprisingly, got rather agitated when he noticed his son beginning to come over far too mincing for his liking. God, you couldn't say that now. That's basically like a outdated, blighty word for... It's basically like calling someone a faggot, basically. There's a story that when he took to training racehorses, he instructed his farm stud grooms to horsewhip the lad. Things really hit the fan when Francis was caught wearing his mother's underwear and painting himself in front of a mirror. The thrashing that he received, if anything, brought him closer to his father, and he'd slip on the odd piece of lingerie to elicit further beatings. When that didn't work, he indulged in affairs with the grooms whose job it was to whip him raw, combining pleasure with pain. Sick bastard. I knew he was gay, but... I mean, I've read this before, but, I thought I read it, it's a bit like, ooh, yeah, and it gets worse with some of the openly gay kind of people. Like in this book, there's Charles Hawtrey. If any of you have watched back like the Carry-Ons and read about him, Jesus Christ, there was like Kenneth Williams, who was tormented at the fact he was gay. Same with similar case with Montgomery Clift, like 1950s actor who basically they didn't really want to be gay. They just that's what they were. Whereas Hawtrey was very openly detailed about what he liked to have done to him and like to do. Anyway, back to this one. Back to posh Irishman, Francis Bacon, bohemian. I'd say rhapsody, but he pretty much liked, but volunteered for it. Anyway, I'll shut up and get back on with it. At 16, his father entrusted Francis to an uncle in order to put a bit of spunk into him. Instructions that were applied all too literally. Ding dong, I say. Carefree weeks were spent travelling Europe, places like Berlin, then at his most deprived with his gay bars and filthy cabarets. A trip to the exhibition of work by Picasso in Paris spurred Bacon on to become painter himself. Never attending art school, something he took enormous pride in, Francis struggled at first, destroying nearly all of his early paintings. In 1945, he shocked the art world with his first masterpiece, 3 studies for the figure at the base of the crucifixion, nightmarish images of deformed hybrids. It set the course for Bacon's career. For much of his life, Francis spent most afternoons at the Colony Room, a notorious Soho drinking club. Not Soho as in New York Soho, which for some reason that one has a capital H. And, this is that bit of London, I think it's pretty much like a red light district, more or less. I don't know. Maybe a bit like Amsterdam. Anyway, it's become more famous because of Edgar Wright's last night in Soho. Yeah. Anyway, a sign outside insisted, "This is not a brothel." Could have fooled me, reading and hearing about that place. Well, that bit of the town, really. City. He was one of its founding members when it opened in 1948, virtually adopted by the proprietor, a formidable lady named Muriel Belcher, who hired him at £10 a week and all he could drink for free, which was quite a lot, to bring in a better class of clientele. As a result, the Colony Room became the prerequisite non-compos artists, or non-compo, I guess, hangout for the next several decades. Francis was now at the epicenter of a bohemian world of non-stop boozing and gambling until dawn. The British painter Michael Wishart believed Bacon had two major ambitions: to be one of the world's best painters and to be one of the world's leading alcoholics. He was well on his way to achieving both in record time. As a struggling artist, he'd always somehow managed to pay for endless bottles of champagne for friends. With the money rolling in, the champagne continued to flow, only it was better vintage. Bacon's powers of recovery from a night of boozing were staggering. He seemed indestructible and generally immune to... Immune? Moon, like Darth Plagueis. Moonalist. Doing a bit of Ovaltine mixed with a bit of options mint choc there, with a bit of soy milk and cinnamon. Might have another one. Well, yeah, why not? Yeah. Where was I now? God, it's like Phantom Boot. It's like Phantom getting trousered. Reading this, it is a book about boozing. Well, where the fuck was I? Which is what Ozzy Osbourne used to say on a regular basis. Yeah, immune to bodily disaster. Crossing a street in Paris, a car ran over his foot, but Bacon just shrugged it off. The next day, it was so swollen he could walk. Ailments, too, into mere trifle to Francis. After he had a kidney removed, he said, "When you have been drunk since the age of 15, you're lucky to have even one kidney." Celebrating his 40th birthday in a restaurant with friends, he announced that his doctor told him that his heart was in such a decrepit state of repair, but he tongue back in King James. His ventricles gone on a permanent tea break, that a single drink could kill him. Waiting for the news to sink in, Bacon beckoned over a waiter and ordered the first of a succession of bottles of champagne. Yeah, sometimes I need to focus on the words because my fucking the lighting in this house is just abysmal. Not abysmal exactly, but there's a shadow. There's a shadow of my hair. In this strange bacchanalian world that Francis inhabited, he mixed with a mad bunch of drinkers such as Don Deacon, a portrait photographer. Going into his local one morning, Deacon asked for his usual, which was a glass of white wine, which he drained in one enormous gulp. The next moment, he was flat on his back on the floor. The new barman had accidentally served him a dose of Parazone bleach, which was kept behind the bar in a wine bottle. Oops. A lesser mortal might have died instantly, but these Soho drinkers were made of stern stuff. Rushed to hospital, Deacon had his stomach pumped, and was back in the pub that afternoon, demanding a refill in the house. Bacon's lovers were the oddest bunch of all. Take Peter Lacey. Well, Francis obviously did. The others would have, since the former Battle of Britain pilot was filled with drink, which, when filled with drink, was borderline psychotic. Peter Lacey. That might be one that goes on my astute and stalwart list, which I haven't done since I don't know, either Ulrich Cross or was it Christopher Lee? Anyway, borderline psychotic. God, probably was in the air too. He kept a cottage where Bacon spent a lot of time in various states of bondage. Christ. Once, out of control and booze, Lacey hurled Bacon through a plate glass window. His face was so badly damaged that his sight was saved only by having his right eye sewn back into place. Bizarrely, the incident made Francis even fonder of Lacey, and he reprimanded friends who dared chastise him. When Lacey moved to Tangier, it probably saved Bacon's life, even though he continued to love and visit him until his death from an overindulgence of booze that resulted in his pancreas exploding. In 1964, Bacon began a relationship with an East End bit of rough called George Dyer, whose inmates included the Cray twins, Ronnie and Reggie, made even more famous by Tom Hardy, playing both twins. And before that, the kind of inaccurate 1990 film with Gary and Martin Kemp from Spandau Ballet. Bacon enjoyed telling the tale that they met when Dyer was in the course of robbing his flat. It was a predictably stormy relationship, ending when the tortured and alcoholic Dyer committed suicide in 1971 on the eve of a Bacon retrospective in Paris. I'm always feeling sorry for him, actually. Like, all these people are leaving him. I think with him being all annoying and obnoxious and depraved and everything like that, it's come on. One dies of severe alcoholism, and then the other one offs himself. Probably was planning to do it anyway. While his reckless affairs informed his paintings, Bacon's laissez-faire approach to life also informed his working practices. When moving studios or rooms, he'd sometimes leave paintings in cupboards or simply destroyed them. Years later, Bacon was wandering down Bond Street when he saw a familiar image in the window of a gallery. It was a painting he'd left behind in Tangier after a holiday. The asking price was £50,000. Unruffled, Bacon paid for it, took it outside, and smashed it to pieces. Perfectly at home in the Ritz or the gutter, Bacon's character was one of deep contradictions. He was a loner who loved parties, a man of terrific fellowship who could spurn you in an instant. He was no respecter of reputation either. At a glittering high society ball, Princess Margaret surprised everyone by taking to the stage, halting the orchestra and grabbing the microphone to perform a Cole Porter song. Getting quite carried away she was, thanks to quiet applause from the sycophants. Then from the back of the room somewhere came loud solitary booing. It was Bacon. Margaret broke off mid-lyric, went bright purple, and was led away by her ladies-in-waiting. Bacon later explained his breach of protocol. Her singing was really too awful. Someone had to stop her. I don't know if my Bacon impression was consistent or not there. But whatever. Carry on. Keep calm and carry on, chap. Artist Peter Beard. All weird names in this. So English. It's like they're so English that they're weird. English and not waspy, I guess, but Witnessed another drink-induced Bacon outburst. This time directed at the model Jerry Hall in a gay disco in Paris. He'd been very happy to meet Mick Jagger, then her paramour, but when Jerry turned up, Bacon let fly. "You fucking old cow!" He bowed up off. "You grotesque cunt! You hideous bloody witch!" The acerbic wile wouldn't cease flowing. "The rest of us went down on some dark pit behind the dance floor and hid," recalled Beard. I don't know how he sounds. I think I can kind of guess how bacon sounds. I'm trying to do kind of a vaguely Irish kind of posh thing with a lot of camp. That Irish dickhead in The Exorcist who's the first to go, basically. Was that Bacon? No, I think he's very, very much based on him though. Just the entire thing, he's drunk and he falls off something accidentally. The bacon vitriol was it vitriol? Vitriol could spike at any moment. Strike? Like fucking hell. Like I said, I need to sleep soon as well. I'll just settle down. One afternoon, he was drinking at the colony when the place was suddenly overtaken by unbearable American tourists. We're not too far off either. And Germans. I think Germans are quite annoying too. In Spain, anyway. But, you know, sorry for being a contrarian, but this book gets kind of into it anyway, so why not? There's a lot of contrarian stuff. Bacon turned to his friend, Geoffrey Bernard. Geoffrey, what woman do you fancy most in the world? Bernard thought it a daft question and refused to answer, instead asking who Francis most fancied. Do you know? Bacon replied in the loudest voice possible. Whatever. I think I'd really like to be fucked by Colonel Gaddafi. The Americans quickly finished their drinks and were gone. In the 70s, Bacon continued to paint successfully and frequent the seedy drinking dens and bars of Soho. Yeah, there's a difference, frequent and frequent, which my dad wouldn't know because he's an English teacher. Remotely. Freelance. English is a foreign language thing. Whatever. But as the years wore on, his alcoholism got worse, leading to even darker and more savage moods. He died of a heart attack in Spain, where he'd gone to visit his new lover, a trip to his doctor had advised him not to take. As usual, Francis didn't listen, doing his own thing was much more important than mere survival.